about it because it was pretty hectic, you know. But so anyway, at the time, I had just enlisted into the Marine Corps. I had literally just got out of MEPS. The day before, I went to a PT, got my real taste for the Marines and how hard they push you. So I thought, you know, the best way to be prepared for this is to do high elevation, you know, hikes, which is right in my backyard. And this is northern Colorado, so Pikes Peak is probably about 100, 150 miles south of where we were. And so if anyone knows where Estes Park is, it's where they shot the movie, parts of the movie The Shining. But anyway, so in Loveland, Colorado, Bob, I'm not sure if you know where that is, but there's a road that goes from Loveland to Estes Park. And we were on that road. We were probably 5 miles away from Estes, and we had pulled over and we just pulled straight over. There was no path, nothing like that, and there was probably a 5-foot wall that we had to climb up basically to be able to hike up this mountain, which is probably about a 2-mile hike up, give or take. And it was real steep, not completely vertical, of course, but I mean, it was pretty close. It was a real hard hike all the way up. We were carrying a lot of stuff. I made my friend Dylan go to the surplus store and get him a uniform and backpack and stuff like that, which I already had. And we were all geared up. I was the only one carrying any type of firearm, which was a 1911 .45 ACP Springfield. It's a really nice pistol. But so it took us probably about an hour. We finally made it to the top, sat down, and was just enjoying the view. And that's when I really just noticed, like, wow, Colorado is so big, you know, like, and this isn't even a quarter of it of what we're looking at. Like, there's so many places that I'm looking at right now people have never been to. I could guarantee it. We were sitting there probably for about 5 minutes. My friend Dylan got up, and there were some boulders. It wasn't a mesa, but it was kind of flat on top of the mountain where it would be almost a vertical drop that we have to step over to be able to descend back down. But so Dylan, he ran, jumped on the boulder. They were pretty big, probably about, the biggest one was probably around 7 feet tall. And he was climbing up it. And when he got into the top, I was just looking at him for some, I don't know why, but his face turned white, like he got scared. And so his first reaction was to turn around and start running. So I told him, like, hey, you know, I won't say what I said for the show and stuff like that, but I was like, hey, you know, what is it? You know what I mean? What's wrong? And he told me, well, there's a big black bear behind the boulder. So I pulled out my pistol and I slowly walked around. There's probably about 5 boulders in a row. And I walked down to the last boulder, slowly walked around, and had my pistol drawn and everything, just in case, you know, because I wanted to see for myself. And sure enough, there was a big black bear. I've seen black bear before, and he was a big one. I'm guessing probably around 300 pounds, so he was pretty big for a black bear. And my friend, I'll be honest with you guys, my friend, he's not a hunter, nothing like that. He was telling me, oh, shoot it, you know. And I was like, obviously you've never been hunting before. I'm not going to shoot this animal. I was like, it's peaceful, you know. It's not going to hurt us, nothing like that. I was like, let's just back up slowly, you know, and we'll leave it alone and we'll get out of here. And I turned back around right after I said that, and it heard me. And it didn't start running towards me, but it started slowly coming towards us. And I'm pretty sure it didn't want to give me a hug, you know. So I yelled at it like, hey, bear, a good couple times at like the top of my lungs, and it still kept coming. So I cocked my gun back, shot into the ground right in front of me. And the bear, it's literally like basically slid on its butt and turned around and started back down the other side of the mountain. And so I was like, well, you know, because that gave me not adrenaline rush from seeing the bear. I wasn't scared of the bear, but once it started coming towards me, I got a little bit of an adrenaline rush. So anyway, we sat back down for like maybe 1 minute, and I got this really uneasy feeling. Like, it's kind of hard to explain the feeling that I had, but I just felt like something wasn't right, you know, and right at that moment I was like, well, let's get out of here, you know, like it's going to be dark soon. Let's get out of here. So we started headed back down. We got to the place where you have to kind of be careful stepping back down to be able to descend down the mountain. And I grabbed him by his backpack. My friend Dylan, which we were both named Dylan, but I grabbed him by his backpack, was helping him step down. And at that moment, I just heard the sound of, you know, like I played baseball, high school baseball, all that stuff, had a scholarship and stuff like that once upon a time. And I heard what sounded like a oversized baseball flying through the air. And I heard just the sound of, you know, and right when I had barely turned my head at all, this rock, probably the size of a good football, it came flying. I mean, it was every bit of 67 miles per hour. And this rock, you know, I would have to throw it like a grandma to be able to even throw this thing. And it came flying in. And it was maybe a half an inch, maybe even closer to hitting Dylan in his head. I mean, it came so close. And there was a pine tree right in front of us. And it hit the pine tree and literally knocked off, not all of them, but almost every single needle that was on that tree. It hit it hard. And right when that happened, you know, there was so much stuff going through my head. The first thing I was thinking of is that if this rock would have made contact, it would have made a mess. Like his head, his brains and stuff would have been all over the ground. And I probably would have tried to drag him out of there. I'm not sure what would, you know, but that thought of, okay, something is, it looked like it was meant to hit him. He like just barely missed. And so that really, made me feel a little like, basically like I'm not on top of the food chain. Basically, I wasn't thinking, you know, Bigfoot. I was thinking I didn't know what to that rock. So, right then, like maybe half a second later, I told him, like, okay, we really need to get out of here. He was like, what could it done? I have no idea. That's what I told him. I have no idea. And so literally right at that moment, there's a cliff that goes all the way down to the highway where we parked that was above us. And we were on the lower part where we could hike up, you know. And so I heard boom, 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 boom. I mean, it was loud. I heard footsteps. I heard boom, 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 really, really loud. So whatever it was trying to be heard, basically. Like it wanted us to know it was there. And it ran up probably just out of sight of where we could see up above us. And we were sitting there looking for maybe 15 seconds, and it yelled at us. And when I mean yelled, I mean it screamed at us. And the closest thing I can describe it to sounding like is like a 500-pound, fat, possessed, angry woman on her period. And the closest thing I could say, you know, it sounded like a human, but it definitely wasn't a human. And it hit me in my temple. I could literally, like, I know it sounds probably crazy or dumb or whatever, you know, but I literally felt this noise hit me in my temple, and it stunned me for a good couple seconds where I was so, like, I guess you could call it scared, but it was more of like just a primal fear where, like, I have never felt something like that in my life. And I've been shot at before, and I've never felt anything that is as close to how scared I was when that thing yelled at us like that, because I couldn't move. And I snapped out of it. It was flight or fight, to say the least. You know, I felt that adrenaline rush right after I snapped out of it. Just hit me as hard as it ever has before. And I looked at Dylan and I told him, hey, run. You know, I screamed at him, like, run. And I pulled out my pistol, because my plan was to fight and then flight. So I pulled out my pistol. I had seven rounds left in the clip, because everyone who knows 1911s, there's 8 rounds, unless you have, like, make an extended mag or whatever, you know. But whoever knows guns also knows that a 1911, a 4.5, you know, for a pistol caliber, I mean, it means business, you know. The stopping power on that bullet is it's great. I love them way better than 9s for that fact. But so I felt pretty safe with that in my hand. But when that thing yelled at me, I didn't feel as safe. So I turned back, I cocked it one more time, because I had uncocked it after I shot the bear, and cocked it back, caught the bullet that flew out. And so I had cocked it back in, and I busted the whole clip in the general direction of where that thing yelled at us. And once I did that, I holstered it, and I started running. I mean, and I couldn't really hear. I didn't have ear protection in, so, 4.5, that's a loud bullet. And it was, my ears were just ringing. And why I say lone survivor down the mountain is because we fell more than 3 times, each of us. I got my foot stuck underneath a log, and I tumbled pretty far, probably about 10 feet. Got up, and because of the adrenaline in me, I still kept moving, even though my ankle was hurting really, really bad. And I told Wes it probably took us 20 minutes to get down that whole 2 miles, which is extraordinary, especially in that type of terrain. And, but it probably took between 20 to 30 minutes, honestly. It was a while, but I mean, we were getting down there as fast as we could. We were tumbling and stumbling, and my friend, he got cut up on his face from falling a couple times. I was banged up, to say the least. So we finally had got down from the mountain, and we both we were in tears. We didn't know what to think. We knew that, I mean, our hearts were pumping so fast, and it felt like we were being hunted, basically, and all I could think about is if that rock would have hit his head. I mean, if it would have, I'm 100% certain he wouldn't have survived. I'm 100% certain that he would have died, and I would have had to drag him off, and who knows, I probably would have got blamed for it. I don't know. But the few times we did talk in the car, man, we were just like, what the blank was that? I have no idea. I don't know what to say. All I know is that basically what I can say is the scream, it kind of sounded like something a human would make, but not a human at the same time. Like the lung capacity to be able to yell that loud at us. I mean, it would have to be like 2 lions put together, basically, is how, because, I mean, it stunned me, and I'm wondering if that's maybe how they hunt. Maybe they stun their animals or whatever. And I also think of, if that rock would have hit him, would they have came after me, because I would have been alone then. I don't know. But we went there. I went to the doctors and stuff like that. I didn't tell the doctor what happened, I just got my medicine and I left. And I've only told a few people because I don't want to sound crazy, but the few people I have told, they know I'm not lying because how just distraught I get and shaky and stuff like that I get when I talk about it,
Dylan, let me ask you, there was a time where you stopped and you looked back. What did you see when you looked back?
Well, it was right when I had fell the first time. My ears were ringing. I was distraught, I had fell. That's when I tore my ankle. My foot got caught underneath a log and I fell. And I had got back up because I noticed Dylan, he didn't stop for me. He kept going. And I had turned around, and 200 yards away, I saw what looked like a face above a tree, and this tree was every bit of 8 feet, 9 feet. So whatever it was taller than the tree. Or maybe it was standing on its feet, its tippy toes, looking at me or whatever. But I couldn't make out much detail because I was pretty far from it. But the closest thing I could describe it to, and I've tried to look and stuff like that, is, not exactly, and I don't know what to make of Todd standing, but there's just one picture where there's it almost looks like a Muppet type of face, where it's like black eyes and it's kind of like a lighter color looking through the tree. And I don't know if those are real or not, but and I'm not saying it looked like that, but from what I could see the eyes, when I seen the eyes in that picture, it struck a chord with me, it made me really think, because I couldn't see much, like I said, but I could definitely see the eyes, and it was starting to get dark, and at first I could just see 2 little black dots that were just basically piercing through me, and I turned back, put my head down and looked back up just to make sure that I was actually seeing something, And when I did that, I could actually, because there was a little bit of sunlight coming in when it was getting pretty dark in the mountains, you know. Colorado, it gets dark out there when it gets dark. And I could see what looked like two goldish color, like, reflections coming from where I was looking at those two little black beads. And so I right then and there, I just thought, you know, like, is it just like a giant person, I guess, is what I'm thinking in my mind, and what I thought about later, actually, because when I had seen that, especially when I seen the reflection of this gold color of these two little beads, I was thinking, I got to get out of here, because whatever it is, it's much stronger than me. It obviously tried to hurt us, tried to harm us, you know, and that's kind of put me in overdrive to get down that mountain.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd feel the same way. Bob, what do you think?
I'm sitting here kind of blown away listening to their story. I do know the area actually out there, and you are right about one thing. Very few white people have actually, seen some of the scenery or some of these areas out here, there. And very few Indians have either, because a lot of them wouldn't go in those areas.
And, you know, growing up as a kid, I never knew how big Colorado's wilderness was until that day when I and it wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even probably 10% of where I could see, but there was just so much places where I could guarantee no one's ever been.
Well, did you see the skin on the face at all? Could you have seen the skin? Can you tell me what color it was, possibly?
From what I could see, it was like like not red, you know, but it was more like a reddish tint to it, like brown, like a reddish brown, basically, is what I could make out. And it looked like, from what I could see, the face that I had seen, it looked like there wasn't much hair on its face. It looked like really, really short hair on its face. In some places, it could even, and probably didn't even have hair. I don't know, because I didn't see it up close. But I could definitely see that there was hair above its, looked like where the eyebrows would be, is where I seen the hair, the brownish red type of color. And from what I could see, because I could see the wind kind of blowing it a little bit, like I said, I couldn't see very much, but I could see definitely like it was blowing it a little bit, and so I could definitely tell it was hair and not fur, because it looked pretty long on its head.
Well, there's a couple of things, Wes, I'd like to kind of go back to if we can. The bear kind of intrigues me as well. Did the bear seem agitated at all to y'all? How was the bear acting is what I'm asking.
Well, and I had read one of the comments just to clear it up on the blog that Wes posted about my story. And some guy was like, I'm confused. He misidentified a Bigfoot for a bear. And I was like, well, it's usually the other way around, you know. And I've been in so many different places in the wild. You know, I've seen bears before, and it was not a Bigfoot. It was a bear. It was a black bear. I know what I saw. And I was just telling that to the person who was confused.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so yeah, I have never had problems with black bear before. You know, I've seen them before, and from maybe 100 yards, and once they see us, they just run. They don't usually want nothing to do with us. But this one, it was different, you know, and it was a pretty big bear. I mean, I'm 5'10". It was maybe a couple inches taller than me when it was standing up, I bet, but it was only on fours, digging in the ground when I had first seen it. And once I had told Dylan, like, I had kind of yelled, because he was way back. He didn't want to get anywhere close to this thing. And I had kind of yelled at him, not yell, but raised my voice at him, like, hey, I'm not going to shoot it. You know, I was like, obviously you've never been hunting before. I was like, it's a peaceful animal. I was like, we're going to slowly back out. It's pretty cool to see, you know. Like, we're going to slowly back out, and we're going to leave. We're going to leave it alone. And I had turned back, literally, right after I said that, I turned my head, and the bear looked up at me, and it basically started jogging at me on all fours. It wasn't a run. It wasn't walking. It was kind of in the middle between running and walking. It was coming towards me, though, and it looked like it didn't want to hug me. You know what I mean? It wasn't coming in for friendly. I don't know what its intentions were, but I didn't want to find out. So I started yelling at it, you know, hey, bear, you know, to get it to try and back off. And once that didn't work, I put my clip back in, cocked it, and shot into the ground. And you can't really tell expressions from a bear's face, you know, but from what I saw, it looked like the bear was like, oh, crap, you know, for better words. I won't say the cuss word, but the bear, it slid, like almost slid on its butt, turned around, and it went away. Because, like I said, you know, everyone who knows guns knows that 4.5 for pistol caliber means business, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I know. The reason why I brought the bear up is because you may have stumbled into where they were hunting this bear, because I have seen them, and I know for a fact that they do hunt black bears. They do hunt the bears. And
wow.
You might have had a party behind that bear. That's the reason why it came on anyway, y'all's direction. Y'all were the last.
Maybe it was pissed at me. Maybe it was mad at me for scaring off its food then. Because the way I had always reasoned it is, it got mad at me for shooting at the bear, is what I've always put into my head, you know, is what I've always thought. But I'm glad you said that, you know, because that actually opens up a whole new door of, wow, you know what I mean? Maybe they were hunting it, and that's why it sounded so pissed at me, because it yelled at me. I mean, it was angry, you know, it didn't want me there. And it was trying to do harm for us, because if that rock would have made contact, if that rock was maybe even half of an inch closer, it would have hit Dylan in the head, and he would have been dead.
Well, and the other thing that kind of intrigued me that you said, you mentioned that it sounded like almost like a woman screaming.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounded feminine. It didn't sound like any woman, but it sounded feminine. I mean, it was too loud to be any woman, and some of the tones in the yell were too different from any human. That's why I said the closest thing I can compare it to is a human, but it definitely wasn't, because there was some tones in the voice that were just way deeper and almost sounded a little bit manly, but the whole scream sounded feminine, but like not manly. The deep parts of it, you know, it almost sounded apish, like a lion ape. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Go ahead, Bob. What were you going to say about the feminine part?
I was just going to say there's also another scenario that you could think about too, is that the female was probably not alone. Of course, if it was hunting, it wouldn't be anyway. Most of the time, from what I have observed, the males are the ones who hunt, but the females will get in there and hunt too. It could be that what it had done is there was some young down in there too, and it's a possibility since it was feminine. I mean, I know what you're talking about. You can't really describe it as a woman, but it has more of a feminine type sound to it. It is different from the males, but you may have also stumbled into where this female, and there was probably other females down in there too, and I'm sure there might have been young in there also. They had run that bear off because black bears aren't beyond taking the infants or the young ones if they can.
Oh, I guarantee you, and especially this one, it had enough guts to come at me, so I wonder, you know what I mean?
Well, you were the lesser of two evils, and that's why it was gonna blow past you if it could, and you shot at it, which already the females were agitated. They were either hunting this bear or they were running it off because there were young down in there, and you know where they were at and where they were coming from, and you had shot. Well, there's two evils right there. You know, you're shooting the bear, and so they took care of the bear. Now they're going to have to take care of you, and that really pissed them off. And they decided They decided they were going to kill you. And you're right. Most of the time, they are very proficient in when they throw a rock. Well, if they throw it and mean it, they're going to hit you. They're almost guaranteed to hit you. But if they throw it and they don't really mean it, they just want you to go away. They'll lob it at you and put it close to you or near you, or if there's water, they'll splash it in the water. They'll throw it in the trees and things like that. It sounds to me like what y'all ran into y'all ran into a bad situation. And,
yeah, I mean, what do you think about the throw? Because it was, in my opinion, I mean, it was trying to hit us. Because, I mean, I can't describe how close it was. I mean, it was probably less than a half an inch. Probably. I mean, it was probably millimeters off of hitting him. It was so close that, like, I didn't know what to think. Like, I thought definitely it was purposeful. Like, it was trying to kill me. Him, anyway, you know?
Honestly, I'm so surprised right now. I'm sitting here so surprised that it didn't kill one of you, that one of you didn't get hit. And if it was coming that fast, and I have seen them come that fast, it would have crushed a head. It would have crushed a chest. It would have broken bones.
Most definitely. Like I said, it would have made a mess. Because how big that rock was, you know? I mean, it was like a football. I mean, it wasn't the shape of a football, but that's around the size of it. You know what I mean? It was probably a good 20, 30-pound rock. And, I mean, it was thrown like a baseball. I don't know if they underhanded it or overhanded or what. I'm sorry.
No, what they do is if they're just lobbing the rock at you, they're going to throw it underhanded. But if they really mean it and they really, really, really want to put some strength into it, they're going to give it like an underhanded sidearm throw.
Yeah, and that's what my guess was.
They're very good at it because they knock turkeys out of trees. and if they wanted to hit you, which it sounds like this female really wanted to hit you guys, really wanted to mess you guys up. And that y'all are more than lucky. God was looking out for you guys. Something was.
And I want to make this clear, too, is that I didn't want to shoot at it or the bear, you know what I mean? But with the bear charging me, I didn't shoot the bear, you know what I mean? I just wanted to scare the bear away. I didn't want it to come and do whatever its intentions were. And I have no idea. And then with the whatever it was, the Sasquatch or whatever you guys want to call it, was yelling at me, you know, right after it threw the rock, and I heard the boom, 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 the footsteps, is when I felt pushed into a corner, if you know what I mean. Like, I felt like that fight, you know what I mean? Because I was paralyzed there for a minute when it yelled at me, and I snapped out of it. I don't know how I did, but I snapped out of it. Maybe it was an adrenaline rush that just knocked me back into my senses, and I thought, you know, okay, well, I don't see it, so I'm probably not going to hit it, but I'm going to shoot into where the general area where I heard that noise to let it know, you know, that, hey, I mean business too. If you're going to try and hurt me, I'm going to try and hurt you.
Yeah, a couple things that are interesting about it, Bob and Dylan. The bear you bring up, Bob, is very interesting. I never thought about that, you know, as far as them hunting the bear and then the bear's behavior. You know, if a bear's going to charge you, you're not going to have time to pull out your gun and shoot. It's going to be on top of you in seconds. And the fact that it was kind of jogging back.
Yeah.
It sounds like more of a scare tactic to get them out of there. What do you think, Bob?
Well, I think at that point, what it was that they had run the bear off, and the bear, like I said, you know, considered them the lesser of two evils. The bear may have just blasted on past you guys. It may not have even, you know, stopped to even maul or anything. But the Sasquatch, Wes, I'm pretty sure it meant business, and it wasn't a scare tactic. What it was, I think it really meant to kill one of them.
Yeah, I think it was trying to, since we scared off maybe its food source, you know, wanted to use one of us for food. Or maybe both of us. I mean, if it would have hit them, I've had nightmares about it of what they would have done if they would have hit him. You know what I mean? Because I had no more ammo after I shot the whole clip, you know? Had no more ammo. That was all the ammo I had. And I wonder what they would have done if it would have hit him. You know what I mean? Because if it would have hit him, I would have turned around and shot.
They would have beat the body up, broke it up, and possibly put it under some boulders or found a tree to display it in as a warning to other humans. As far as you probably wouldn't have made it out. When you turned around and shot like that, it probably got them very skittish, very very cautious, and because
they stopped messing with me after I shot it. You know, like I turned back after I fell and seen something looking over a tree, but I mean they stopped throwing rocks and yelling at me.
The thing about it is that can go two ways also. You know, they see hunters. I say this a lot of times. You know, they see hunters, and I'm sure people hunt up in that direction, and they know what a gun can do. So it could have went two ways for you. You know, they might have not even cared and came on. You said that you heard them stomping and everything. I think you two young fellas are extremely lucky that y'all are still here. I really do think that they meant to kill y'all. At least one of you, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and Dylan, you know, like he didn't know what to think when that rock flew by his head. You know what I mean? One of the first words I had said to him is, "You almost effing got killed," when we got down that mountain, you know, and we were both had tears in our eyes. I looked at him and told him that, like, you almost effing got killed. And it mind boggled him. You know what I mean? I had to drive home because it was his car, but he was so out of it. He couldn't drive, you know, and I've been in high stress situations. So I still was pretty nerve wracked and had a bad adrenaline rush, but I was able to calm myself and handle myself. You know what I mean?
Dylan, you wanted me to bring Bob on. What questions did you have for Bob?
I heard the recent one was Wes interviewing you about the gold miners encounter part 2, and I have one question after this too, and then we can wrap it up or whatever. But and you said that you had, or maybe this was the first one anyway, but the first interview. But you said that you had made a fishing net for the animal, right? The Sasquatch or whatever, you know. Right. Did it use it?
Did it? Oh yeah, it did. It used it. It left mine alone, and I made it big enough for its hand to go into that one, and it left it there. It never took it back out. It would go in with its hand and pull the fish out and throw them up on the bank, you know, up on the shore, and it would also harvest the watercress, you know, there along the right there in the water along the bank, you know. Yeah. And it would have its watercress, and it'd eat those fish.
Wow.
But
were they rainbows?
No, they were just they were brown trout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just small brown trout. Every once in a while, you can see a cutthroat in there.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was too, because they're normally in big lakes. But
yeah, mostly.
But that was outside of Durango, going up into the canyon, right outside of town. And from what I understand, a lot of that is actually been developed now, which is really sad. But but you would go up through that canyon in that old part of town. You could walk up there, and a lot of, you know, back then, a lot of the hippies were taking their microbuses up there as far as they could go, and you know, and people who had Jeep foil drives, you know, they would get up in there, you know, further and everything. But you know, it goes out. It passes, you know, a lot of BLM land. I don't know if they still own it or not, but I know that a lot of it. Okay, well, I do know that a lot of it has been developed in some of that area. You know, in that big table rock, what is it, about 100, 200 feet high, right in there, runs down along town a little bit. And I've camped up in there actually. But if you keep on going, you'll get on into San Juan National, Park and everything. The Florida River and the San Juan River, you can, it'll carry you down to Navajo Lake. Way down in there. Those are a lot of the places where I used to be.
And then my last question for you, because once I heard your stories, about Colorado and stuff like that, I was like, that's what basically convinced me. Okay, I'm gonna try and see if Wes will email me back, because I want to tell my story. Because it was a scary experience. It still frightens me to this day. Like I said, when I talk about it, stuff like that. But when your first interview with Wes, and you were talking about how you were really, really sick, out in the mountains above Durango, right? And the Sasquatch, it helped you, didn't it? And like I was always confused on that part. Like it carried you, didn't it? And like brought you to like a camper or something like that, and like knocked on the thing and then left you there for them to help you.
Well, yeah, I was really sick, and I don't know how much of that was real and how much wasn't. I was really sick. I was dying, as a matter of fact, and I can tell you that it did bring me food, meat chunks and a rabbit. It brought me some grasses that were kind of sweet and lemony and kind of bitter and things like that, which I made tea out of. When I got a little better and I tried to make it down the canyon, I'm about 2 weeks out. I just remember somehow moving, and I don't remember how I started moving, but I started moving, and I remember seeing the ground move, and stuff like that. But what the guy told me, and he told me again, because they came and checked on me in the hospital, because I was deathly ill. They had to cut in and put tubes into my lungs and everything.
So I guess you probably had like pneumonia, huh?
Oh yeah, bronchial pneumonia and everything. But he told me that if his bus hadn't moved the way it did, in other words, he said it was shook. Like something had shook it. He said he didn't know where I got the strength to actually shake his bus, because it was a school. It was a school bus, and that couldn't have been me. It had to have been the squad.
That always intrigued me. Like, I know it probably sounds pretty far-fetched, but I believe you. Like, and especially you saying that like you don't remember moving and remembering what's real and what's not, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that lends a lot of credibility, because, like, you were sick and dying out there, you know what I mean? And that, to me, it says that, like, these things can be different, like some of them can be, I guess, really angry. Or maybe it's just how you approach them, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, and what happened to me and stuff like that, it was really aggressive, you know what I mean? But it sounded like this thing was kind of, like, befriending you.
Oh, well, we threw rocks at each other in the beginning, believe me. But
I don't doubt it.
I guess in a way we got a little bit of a rapport going somehow on his terms, not mine. It's always on their terms. It's never on your terms. I was just going to say, I was running 105 and 106. And when you run that much fever, you're hallucinating. You don't know what's going on. And, I continuously passed out and everything. I could barely breathe. And I cannot tell anybody for certain that this creature picked me up while I had passed out and walked me down there. But I feel like, as far-fetched as you said it sounds, that it did. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is that is not the first time in history that they have actually helped a person.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, to me, it sounds like these things can be basically unpredictable, basically. I mean,
well, that's what I said. It has to be on their own terms, and I think it has a lot to do with the individuals. But that you can throw all that out the window down here in East Texas.
Well, yeah, I want to, when I'm able to get the money and stuff like that, maybe come down there and meet you and, go around there, because I've never actually been to Texas.
Well, that would be great. Come on down, and we'll show you around a little bit if you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, Dylan, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I do appreciate you coming on, sharing the encounter. It was a terrifying one. So thank you for being on tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Wes. And Bob, it was really nice talking to you. I was listening to your guys' stories once I started listening to it, and I was like, wow, this guy has been through a lot.
Well, thank you.
And I want to thank Bob for coming on. I know, Dylan, you wanted to ask Bob questions, and Bob, thank you for being available to come on to speak to Dylan. I really do appreciate that, too, as well.
Oh, no problem, Wes. I'm always here.
Thanks, fellas, and I wish you both the best. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I hope next year is good to both of you. Next up on the show, I want to welcome Brian. Brian, thanks for being here tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And if you would, you had a kind of a few interesting encounters, actually, out on this property. But if you'd start from the beginning, the very first encounter, just tell us what you were out doing. Tell us what you saw. Kind of who you're with. Just walk us right into the whole story.
I went out to the Sequoias, and my brother and I was with my friend Joe, and I work with my brother, so I'm with him all day long. And he's been wanting me to go out camping with him. That's all he does. He has a lifted Jeep. So finally, I was like, all right, well, take me out to the most excluded forest. Let's go really camp. I want to go experience the forest. I haven't been in a while. So he was really excited, and he went on Google Maps, and every time I tell the story, I get like... So he was looking on Google Maps and found a good spot. So we planned it about a month ahead. We went out there and had a friend. So we get out there about 8 o'clock, and it was off this old logging road to where we were in the middle of nowhere. You couldn't find anybody if you had to. So we got about around 8 o'clock. The sun started going down. It started getting cold, so we set up our camp, and we're in an area where we couldn't have a fire. So we're hanging around, we're bored, and we're like, well, let's go take a little walk down the road. So, all right, so we each have this little LED flashlight, nothing special. We walk about a minute down the road, and at this point, it's pitch black. We can't see anything, and we're kind of just really scared, but we're kind of exciting. So we only get about a minute down the road to where it has this little curve and this little creek's coming down, and we get there, and we're like, okay, this was enough for that. It's kind of scary. So we decided to walk back to the car. On the way back, it was about 30, 40 seconds in. On the way back, my brother yelled, he was behind me. He yells out, eyes. So I run, I'm taller than him, so I run up from behind. I shine my light over him down into the tree, and it's like a little bank, but it was about 20 feet down. There was this big tree, and there's about a 5-foot gap on each side. So as I shine my light over him, I see these eyes at first, and at first they're like yellow, and they're really far apart, and that's all I see. And I look, and I'm just like, well, that's weird. And then the way this motion of the head, it's like almost like an owl. His neck had no movement, and he was kind of looking at us like his head was tilting weird. And then I saw that, and everything kind of came into focus, and I realized this thing was about 7 feet tall. He had his left arm around the tree. He was kind of hunched over, peeking at us, and he was just staring us down like he was just interested in making sure we didn't have a gun or making sure we weren't a threat or anything. And we were just 3 dumb kids with flashlights up there. So about 4 seconds, I had my eye on it. About 4 seconds, my friend Joe finally gets over, and he shines his light on it. Now we have all 3 lights on this thing. And now I really see it. And at that moment, I could tell he was over us looking at him. Like, he had about 5 seconds of these lights on him. So he kind of just stood up and pushed himself back, and I saw him. He thought for a second. He looked to the right to see if he was going to go that way, and he looked to the left, and then he pushed himself off the tree with his left hand. And at this moment, he completely forgot we were even there. It was just like, it was real quiet in the whole forest. Once he pushed himself away, he put his head straight down. And that's when I saw him the best. I had his back of his head lit up, like the back of his his head went down really low. It was like he had almost had no head on top. Like his head was pointing down. So the back of his hairs was standing up and it was shining. And he took about 5 steps, just gently walked off to the side. And every time he took a step, he was so heavy, it sounded like the wood was popping on the ground. So he got about 5 feet off. And we're up there and quiet. We can't even talk. We're just thinking about what's going on. It's all so fast. So after he walks out of view, he stops. So he just stopped right after he got where we couldn't see him, and he was just looking right back at it. So now we're just staring. We're just like, oh my God, what? This just got really fast. We weren't expecting any of this. So now we're sitting there thinking what to do for about 15 seconds, being like, we're not just going to run. Like, we were just walk back to the car. My brother had a gun just for protection. We had a GoPro, but it was so dark, it would have been pointless anyways. So as we start walking back to the car, we're about 30 seconds in. We're just kind of slowly walking, just kind of talking, just being like, our minds are just blown. They're just like, we saw enough of this thing. We knew what it was. So as we're walking back, we realize that he hasn't left us alone. He starts following us back. We kind of hear him down there. He's walking down there, and you can tell he's kind of trying to be quiet, but he's just too big. He can't be quiet. So now at this point, we stop talking to each other. We're just walking, just real gently, just like listening to him as we're walking to the car. And it gets to the point where he gets so close to us, and finally he just takes a step where it just stopped us all in our tracks. We're just standing there, and it was kind of on a bend where it was going left, so we're kind of pinned in a little area. And this thing was 10, 15 feet max. It's right off the road, right on the other side of this big, thick bunch of trees. So we're standing there, and at this point, we weren't talking. We were just like, it felt like we were trapped in a corner. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have time to think. My heart was up in my neck. I never felt that feeling in my chest before. And about 5 seconds of that goes by. I look up at my brother, and he's bent over with his little stupid flashlight in his hand. He's shaking. And I could tell it was a really intense moment. And I did not know what this thing was going to do, if it was going to run out, if it was just trying to scare us, or what. So about after a few seconds, my brother, he yells out and just runs straight into the forest with this thing. And me and my friend Joe, we don't even have time to hesitate 1 second. We're just so caught up in the moment. I wasn't just going to stand there and let my brothers run in. I didn't even think. We just immediately run in at this thing. So we ran in about 10 feet. And I realized it's real loud. We're all being real loud. We don't know what's going on anymore. So I pull out my hands. I was in front at the time. I pull out my hands and I just yelled, stop. We weren't talking to each other. I just yelled, stop. We all immediately stopped, and we're sitting there listening for anything. The thing was just right on us. It couldn't have gone far. And about 5 seconds goes by, just sitting there listening. This thing was only about 10 feet off behind the tree, and it didn't run off. It's just like it just started walking off real quick and fast. And this was like Andre the Giant size, like heaviness, just walking. He's just right there. So we still don't say a word to each other. We just immediately start. I don't even know why we were running at this thing. This thing already like came up to us so close that it was like testing us. So at this point, we were just so caught up in it. We were so interested. We wanted to experience as much of this thing as we could. So we weren't even thinking about what could happen or what we were even going to do if we got face to face with this thing. So after we heard it running again, we just immediately start running after this thing. Ran about another 10 feet. I do the same thing again. It gets to the point where we don't know where we're running because we can't see anything. I pull out my hands. I yell, stop again. So now we're sitting there again, 5 seconds, same exact thing, except now it's more to the left. And after watching this thing just starts walking again, like real quick walking steps, not like it just took off running. It's like this thing it just started moving. So we did that again. We started running. We did that 4 times. And on the 4th time, I waved my hands out. And at that point, we just looked at each other and we're like, all right, we don't even know where the road's at. We're looking around. We're in the pitch black. These flashlights aren't doing enough. And we just immediately forgot about the situation. And the first thing on our mind is like, all right, now we need to get back to the road. So we almost spent the whole night in there with this thing because we almost went back the wrong way. So we're looking around, kind of figuring out which way we came from. So we start walking, and the whole time we're just walking, looking down, just walking real quick, expecting this arm or just anything to happen because we know the thing's just right there. So as we walk back for a minute, I see the license plate shining from the car, so that means we didn't even go back towards the road area, we went more towards the left, and we popped up right at the car. And when I saw that license plate, my heart was just like, yes, there's a safety. So we get back to the car, we pull the gun out, I call my mom and dad, tell the whole story, and we hung out for about an hour, nothing happened. At that point, we're already tired from driving all day. And we're just like, all right, well, let's go to bed. And went to bed. But I heard the thing ended up staying around our camp about 30 feet into the trees. So I heard about 3 to 4 wood knocks. And they were really loud and hollow. And it was just like a thump. And then there'd be one on the other side of us. So I think there was 2 of them. And he was hanging around us, our tent, and just watching us the whole night. And that was our story from the sequoias. And that was about a year and 2 months ago. And I wasn't expecting any of that to happen. And after that, that just was like, all right, now I'm into Bigfoot.
3 guys, too much testosterone going to chase after it. In the future, if you're ever in that position, please don't chase after them.
Oh, yeah, no, I think about it now, and I can't imagine I did that. It's just like this thing. It's like it almost gave us no choice. It's like if we would have ran to the car, the last thing I want to do is looking over my shoulder. Like we were stuck in he had us pinned.
Let me ask you, when you were shining the flashlight on the creature, can you describe what you saw? Can you go into any details?
I didn't see a facial because by the time it got in, all I saw was like the figure of the head and him holding onto the tree. And his eyes and the way his neck was just mostly stayed up for me. It was just really weird and different. And when he pushed himself off is when I saw him the most. And it was the same exact shape and size as Patty. I mean, this thing was huge. And when he pushed himself off, I just saw his legs moving and the gaps in between. Like I saw everything. His long arms were swinging and he had his head straight down. And he just walked off so gently. And it was just really weird how he just didn't care about us. He saw that we weren't a threat and he just didn't care. But then I don't know why he walked up and continued following us.
Did you ever ask your brother why he went running after it?
I do all the time, but he doesn't really give me a straight. There was just more of the adrenaline in the situation. But he's the kind of guy who's always got to be the tough macho man. And before he chased it, he actually yelled a cuss word, and that was the first time I've ever heard him cuss in his life.
Was this just an area you guys were camping at, or is this a property you guys own, or?
No, this was just out in there's a place called Whitaker Forest out in the Sequoias. This is just a random logging road. We were allowed to camp, but we weren't allowed to have fires or anything like that.
Was this your first encounter with the Sasquatch?
Oh, yeah. I lived up in Julian for 4 years, and nothing ever up there. And this is my first time in a real thick forest like this. I've been, like, when I was a little kid going with parents, but I don't walk off 10 feet from the car. This is my first time actually in the forest. We are in a really thick spot, and I look back and I look at the area, and I'm just like, this is perfect for something like this to live.
Did you guys ever go back to the area?
Yeah, I went back actually 3 or 4 times, and I really got to know the whole area. We went and hiked down. We found this big waterfall area. We actually stayed there one night. We explored the whole area, and we never had anything like that, but we had a few times where, one time really when we were going to bed, I had a friend in the other tent next to me, and we sat on tents, and it was at the point where you're going to bed, and it gets to be the point where it's exactly like there's no sound. You're done moving your sleeping bags. We said our good night, and as soon as it got to be perfectly quiet, about 30 feet off, this tree branch got ripped off, and it was like you could hear the force in it. It's like this thing knew we were going to bed, and it was just letting us know we were there. And me and my friend immediately were like, "Did you hear that?" And it was just obvious. It was just real loud and quick, and had force to it.
Yeah, the story kind of makes me laugh a little bit because reminds me of, I don't know how old you are, Brian, but in my early 20s, you probably would have seen me do something like that. You know, see these eyes shine, something twice my size, and I'm going to go run it down. I think as you get older, you kind of realize you can die at some point. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Me and my brother, because I see him every day. We work together, and it comes up at least once a day. We talk about it and laugh. It's just like we really ran after this thing. It's just like it's just crazy. And my brother's not really into it as much as me. He goes out and does his things, but he knows what he saw, and that was enough for him. Yeah.
Now you recently, was it a property that you own, Brian, that you're on?
No, it's my parents. They still own it. I grew up there when from about 9 to 13 or something. I moved back, but they've owned it the whole time, and then that's where I've been getting my latest experiences.
And tell me what's going on that property.
So I've been going to the Sequoias, and it's about 7.5 hour drive from my house, and I at least went four times last year, so it kind of got tiring, and then the fires happened up there, and I don't even know if my whole area is even there or not. I haven't had to call and see if that area burned. But so we decided to take a break, and my parents still own this property up in Julian, and it's 10 acres on top of on this mountain range over Lake Henshaw, Santa Isabel area. And so we decided to take a break. It's only an hour and a half drive. So we're just going up there, going up there to camp. And I'm not expecting anything. I love camping, and so we're just going up there to do that. We have our fire pit, and that's the only thing up there. There's an old chicken coop on the side by the pond, but that thing's ready to fall over. And there's an old trailer pushed to the other side that's abandoned. So there's nothing over there anymore. The house got demolished. So we just have our little fire pit right in the middle of the field. And there's this pond area. And so we went up there about the third time. Nothing happened the first two times. I wasn't even expecting. So the third time we're up there, about 8:30 goes by. I think I was cooking a steak on the fire. And it was the moon wasn't out, so it was pitch black. And I was with my friend Derek and his girlfriend. And so she has had this weird feeling. She's like, heard something off to the side or something. So she just turns her flashlight on and ends up just turning it right onto this thing. She didn't see the face or anything like that. All she just yelled out in horror, yelling out eyes. So I'm thinking maybe a deer or something like that. So I want to see it. And I have this little Magnite, and still I finally got a good flashlight now. So, but I had another bad flashlight again. So I ran around my car to see if I can meet up with it. And as I run around my car, I realize it's not there, but I can hear it. And I start running full speed, and I realize I'm running next to myself. And he ran around the trailer. He cut around the trailer, and I got up to the edge of the tree line, and I stopped. And I had my flashlight out, and I couldn't see anything, but I hear him running. He ran up the hill, and this thing was just gone. And it was no deer, no mountain lion. Nothing's going to come up 20 feet from the fire and just sit there and watch us. I mean, it was pitch black. We couldn't see it if we were trying to look, but she just happened to turn the flashlight right on it. And then as I turn around, and after the thing runs off, I turn around, she's already in the car with the door locked. And I go back, and I was just like, what was that? And she's like, it was yellow eyes, and it was like a human figure, and I shined my light on it, and said the head tilted back, and immediately just ran off like he was caught. So that was the first experience. And after that, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot, I'm just like, okay, that was different. So I'm looking around, and the place has been abandoned for about 15 years now. The deer and all the little animals have taken over the whole place. Every time I go up there, there's new deer prints just everywhere. So they're up there all day long. So we head back about 3 times later or so. We thought that was weird. So we're going up there just to try to experience something else. And then, so this time we got up there about 1 o'clock. It was really late. We decided to head up late. So we get our tent and everything set up. It's about 2 o'clock. And we have a little music box playing around the fire again. And I look up at my friend Derek, and he's pointing at me, telling me to shut the music off. As I'm turning the music off, I hear this thing coming from the pond, the dam of the pond, and it was just like a human. You could tell it was a human imitating an owl. It was just like a whoo. It just sounded, as I'm turning it off, I'm just like, that's just weird. Like, it just didn't sound right. So my friend does one right back to it, and then a couple seconds later, you could hear it as it started moving down, because the pond's empty. Started moving, it went down from the dam and walked into the pond, and it transformed into this deaf man, started to scream at us. And it was just like, it kept getting more louder and more intense, and it was just like a wah, 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 it was just repeating, and it was just, we were both looking at each other, and me and my friend actually got into an argument. He was like, while it was going on, he was like, there's a human down there, and I know the area. And I'm like, no, it's 2 o'clock, there's nobody down there. And I mean, this thing was still going as we're arguing. And at this time, it's starting to walk up on the other side of the pond, and they have a chicken coop right there. So this thing gets on the other side of the chicken coop, and instead of yelling, it did this quick little, not as loud. It was almost like it was talking to another one on the other side. So then immediately we heard a noise on the other side by the trailer. So they had us surrounded within 7 seconds. We were surrounded. So I'm sitting there, and this thing finally got done yelling. So we're looking at each other, just like, I have my hands on my head. I'm just like, what is going on? So I'm just thinking what to do. I look at my car. I'm just like, get in the car. So 2 of us got in, and I immediately turned that thing on, turned the high beams on, and I floored it to that chicken coop. And I thought for sure I was going to light something up. I just wanted to see something. But there was nothing there. So I backed out in reverse and was shining in different directions, but nothing. So I just drive back, get out of the car, and my friend Derek says, right when I get in my car and I start going, he heard the thing cross the road, and it ran to the other side of the property in seconds. So it was already out of there.
The vocalizations that you heard, was it like gibber? Is that how you're describing it?
Yeah, it was like it was so weird. It's really hard for me to do. It was just like a wah, 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 it was something talking, but you could tell it was like a wah wah, like, I don't know, it's really hard to do, but it was just nothing I've ever heard before. And I looked online and all the videos, and I found a couple that are just, one of them is just right on. And this thing was just, and then the last one was the weirdest because it's like it said something to the other side of the pond in a different kind of tone. I don't know, but the beginning tone was just straight screaming. I don't know if he was yelling at, but then when he said the last one, it was just like he was talking. It was really weird.
Have your parents noticed anything going on around the property?
No, because after that, I've been talking to him, and we lived there for 4 years, but at the time, we were up there, kids running around, motorcycles, so it was a whole different situation than it is now, but we never experienced anything, but we weren't really looking. We were in our house trailer, or our house, and at nighttime, we didn't come out, and we just, if we hear something, we just never thought about it. We just never give it thought, but now I'm out there kind of looking for it, and...
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about your last experience.
Okay, so the last one got the weirdest, and I'm not saying it ain't, and it could have just been natural, or it could have just done it, but so me and my friend, I take up one friend up there, and we, instead of a tent this time, we put a tarp down right next to the fire, and nothing happened, so about 10:30 we decided to go to bed. I'm laying on my sleeping bag. I'm right on the tree line, kind of, so I'm on my sleeping bag laying on my back looking up, and the sleeping bag's covering my forehead, and it's about 2:30, and I remember being in a real, like, almost half asleep, deep sleep. I was out of it. And then I'm waking up to something hitting my chest really hard to where, like, almost took my breath away. And as I'm sitting up, I scream because I'm like, it wakes me up like this. So I have no clue what's going on or where I'm even at. So as I sit up, I'm cuddling this coyote. His head is on the left side, and he's upside down, and his feet are like he's completely off balance to where he's kicking. And he wants nothing to do with me, and he's trying to get off. So as I sit up, I had about 3 seconds of holding this thing. My friend Joe's sleeping next to me, so I scream and I push him off, and he kind of gives me kind of kicks off of me. And as I throw it off, it bumps into my friend Joe, and it immediately got on his feet and just took off. So now we're sitting there, just being like, wow, like what just happened? Like it was 2:00 at night, and we were just freaked out, and it was dead quiet outside. So now we're just sitting around, just being like, and then I don't know what to go, but. Yeah, and that was pretty much my last experience where I'm at, and that was about 4 weeks ago. And I've been trying to get back up there, but the rain and the cold has stopped me. But this weekend I'm going to be up there.
Were you guys sleeping out in the open?
Yeah, we didn't have a tent that time. Usually we had a tent, but that night we just decided to put a tarp down because we're right on the fire, right next to the fire.
I gotcha.
So it was just really weird. The coyote, it just made no sense. It wanted nothing to do with me. And it's like it came down on top of me.
Yeah, that is strange. That's really strange, especially for a coyote to be acting that way.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I lived up there, and we hear them, but they're at the bottom of the mountains. We never once saw one. And then that one was up there.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why it was coming in on you guys like that. You know, if it was afraid of something or strange, really strange.
And just when the situation comes up, I'm not expecting it, and just all hectic. It's every man for themselves up there almost.
Yeah, be careful with these things, man. Just remember, they're not toys to be played with, and they can turn on you. Trust me, they can turn on you. And chasing one down, I highly don't recommend that. I mean, I really don't recommend that at all. I mean, you saw how big it was with your flashlight. It could have easily taken all three of you guys, no problem.
I could have taken us out in a second.
Yeah. But it's a fascinating encounter, man. It's cool that you have them around the property. Just be careful when you're out there. You know, I wouldn't go unarmed. Not that you have to shoot one. I'm just saying, just for your own protection. Plus, too, out there in California, I know where you're at, Brian, and you know,
the mountain lions.
Exactly. You know, you got a lot of other things that can get you too as well. So, it's a fascinating encounter. I really appreciate you sharing it. I've never heard of anyone running these things down. Well, actually, I take that back. I did have one guy on that chased one down. He was pretty young. You know, he's early 20s when he did it. And he did almost the same thing as you guys did. He just turned and started chasing towards it. But I'm telling you, they get a hold of you. It's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we think about it all the time. Just like we're lucky to get out of that situation.
Yeah, I would just be careful when you're out there. You know, and I understand wanting to go out there. It's a mystery. We as humans love to solve the mystery.
Oh, yeah. It's exciting. the unknown, and it's been getting weirder and weirder, and that's all I want to do is go out there every weekend.
Yeah, I hear you there. Thank you for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me tell the stories.
And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email, wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays.